The Way Out Podcast, episode 104.
Welcome. Thank you for joining us on this week's installment of The Way Out, sharing stories from people just like you who have recovered from alcoholism and other addictions. The Way Out does not speak on behalf of, nor are we affiliated with any 12-step organization. Our purpose is to share with you, one episode at a time, what it was like, what happened, and what it's like now.
The Way Out Podcast is sponsored by Transitions Daily. Would you like to join a free, anonymous, online group that offers a daily topic email with popular recovery resources accompanied by a secret Facebook group for discussion? Go to dailyaaemails.com for more information about Transitions Daily. Don't forget to share dailyaaemails.com with friends, in meetings, and with sponsees in recovery. Make sure to check out the official website of the Way Out Podcast at www.wayoutcast.com. There you will find links to our latest episodes on iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, and Radio FM. You can also follow the Way Out Podcast on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Help us get the message out that lifelong recovery from alcoholism and addiction is possible by giving us a 5-star rating on your favorite podcast platform.
Have a question or comment about an upcoming or previous show? Call us right now. Area code 218-382-1960. We're going to start featuring your comments and questions on the podcast. Call us anytime, day or night, and leave us a message on whatever is on your mind. Maybe it's a previous episode topic or something that you're struggling with in your own recovery. Call us at 218-382-1960 and leave the Way Out Podcast hosts a message and we could feature it on our next episode. That's 218-382-1960. Help us recover out loud.
The Way Out Podcast is on right now. I'm Charlie, and we've got a special episode on tap for you. An interview with Chris Swan. Chris's journey to recovery from overeating and alcoholism was remarkable, and will without any doubt ring true with any one of you whom are struggling with or are in recovery from alcoholism and or addiction. Chris's story and his point of surrender is a must listen. And so is his original music, which we'll feature in uninterrupted fashion on this very episode. Listen up. Chris, welcome to the Way Out Podcast, brother. I can't thank you enough for the time and for the willingness, really, to share your experience, strength, and hope with us and the Way Out Podcast audience.
Yeah, man, just super honored to be here, man. So I appreciate you having me on. I'm a fan of what you do, and just happy to be a small part of it today.
Awesome. So what I really want to do is have you introduce yourself to the Way Out Podcast audience and, give us your, 30-second high-level overview of who Chris Swan is, and then, we can dig into your story a little bit.
Yeah, that sounds great, man. Sounds great. My name is Chris Swan. I'm a musician. I live in St. Louis, Missouri, and I'm a full-time musician and piano instructor, and I also run a record company called Soul Motivation Records, and I do, basically what I call recovery rap. It's positive hip-hop music, empowering hip-hop music with a message of recovery and hope, and just kind of spreading that message through music, man. So, I'm new to recovery. It's been about 5 or 6 months now. Well, 5 months, and just learned so much. And, I'm just grateful to be here and to be alive today. So I'm, just learning how to live a sober life and an abstinent life. While also working in bars every night, because I'm a musician that works in bars and restaurants every night. So that's kind of the challenge.
For sure, man. For sure.
Walk,
and I know a couple of musicians in recovery that have that in their daily, right? And certainly there's that's a unique challenge that and so I want to talk about that as we talk about your story. So first of all, 5 months, congratulations, brother. We don't do this by accident. This is, if you're anything like me, 5 months all in a row sober is a really big deal.
Yeah, it really is, man. And it's kind of interesting. I have kind of a dual sobriety thing. So my sobriety date from alcohol is actually 2.5 years. So it's been 2.5 years since I drank. And I say 5 years because my other, drug of choice was food and compulsive overeating. And so it was 5 months ago that I joined OA, actually, after going to a few AA meetings. But it wasn't until I really joined OA that I really started to get it. And it all started to click. So my food sobriety now has been about 5 months.
That's awesome, brother. And for me, all addiction is the same, right? The root cause, right? Whether it's food or whether it's alcohol or whether it's meth or porn or, whatever it is that I've decided that is going to provide that seemingly necessary escape from myself, right? The root of it's the same, you know? And so has that been your experience?
Yeah, absolutely. That's what was really interesting to learn was that, it's not about my addiction. I always thought like, man, I just got to quit drinking. And then, I just got to quit eating, a certain kind of food or whatever, and what's wrong with me? And I just need more willpower and and I really thought it was just these substances that were the problem. And when I got into OA, that's when I really started to study the 12 steps and get it and, kind of understand it. And understanding that, these are just all different symptoms of the same disease. You know what I mean? And honestly, that's when I saw hope, for the first time in a long time, because I realized, okay, I don't just have to control my behavior. I need to do something about this disease that I have that's causing all these different things. It just seemed a lot more manageable than trying to knock out all these little vices that I had,
Sort of like whack-a-mole, right?
Right, exactly.
Because I would squash one addiction, right? And I'd get, the porn under control, and then the alcohol would be out of control, and then I'd get the alcohol sort of manageable, and the porn would be out of control, or the drugs, or the eating, or whatever it was, right? So, or sex, So that was definitely, addiction whack-a-mole for many years in my own experience.
That's awesome. That's a great way to put it. That's totally how it was. I mean, whenever I would quit one thing, I always used to smoke cigarettes pretty heavily, So I'd quit smoking, and then and then I'd start chewing, and then I'd try to stop chewing, and I'd drink more, and that was a big thing. When I quit drinking, then I went to food hardcore. I've always had a food thing, but when I quit drinking, food was my last one. It was the last stand, and I went all in with the food, man. You know what I mean? And took it to the next level. So that's totally what it is, man. That's a great analogy. It's just like trying to knock them out and trying to keep them all, quieted is the challenge. But through the whole 12-step thing and understanding, pursuing my spiritual health over just trying to quit bad habits. That was the game changer for me.
Boom. We'll talk about that, right? For me, all of those different manifestations of my addiction, okay, were solutions, however imperfect, to a core problem I was trying to address. And I was trying to address it in a very imperfect way. But there was something wrong with me that I was trying to solve with food or with, porn or alcohol or drugs or sex. And invariably, whatever solution I chose stopped working or started causing a lot of problems and started to become unmanageable. And then I'd switch my solution. And then that solution would become unmanageable.
Yes.
And so I had to find a different solution. And for me, that was also the 12 steps was a much more perfect solution to the problem that I was trying to address. Can you relate to that?
Oh, yeah, absolutely, man. I mean, that's, they talk about insanity a lot, in the rooms and talking about, the insanity of our behavior. And that's just a great example of it. I mean, I did the exact same thing, man. It was just constantly trying to fill this void. And then also, like you start out, it's fun. You're drinking. Hey, this is fun. And the next thing you know, it's like killing you and you have to stop. And then you're like, but what am I going to do? Like, how am I going to survive without this? I have no other way to bring joy into my life. And when I started having those thoughts, that's when I kind of got a glimpse in, okay, there's something bigger going on here, because obviously I'm trying to fill some kind of void. And I started to really understand that, but I still didn't know how to stop it, though. I'm like, okay, that's great, but I still can't stop because I don't know what to do with this void. And that's exactly what it was, like understanding the 12 steps and the hope found in that, and like getting into the big book and stuff, man. That was huge. Like once I kind of started to understand the whole 12-step thing, that was exactly what you said. That was the first time this is what I've been looking for my whole life. This is the solution I've been looking for. Like in all these other stupid things, this is it. I found it, and that's just super exciting, man.
So take me back to the first time you engaged in your initial drug of choice. And what was that? What was that first, for me it was alcohol. That first love was alcohol. What was that for you?
Yeah, the first one for me was definitely food, man. That's always been the big one ever since I was a little kid, and kind of, the story that a lot of people have, but just, in my house, food was everything. Everything fun that we did revolved around food, and a lot of family functions are still like that, but I just remember even just, little things when my family, there was a lot of kind of fighting and arguing in my household when I was little. But I remember when we were sitting in front of the TV, ordering pizza or whatever, and just watching TV and watching Family Ties, that was like bliss, because everybody was just happy and getting along. And I think the food just played a huge role in that. Like food equaled comfort, and food equaled serenity, for lack of a better word. It was kind of the moments of peace were surrounded around food. And so that just went on and on and on growing up. I mean, it just became all about food whenever I needed to feel better.
You needed peace or serenity.
Yes.
You sought food, because that was your really very early experience with food, and how profound that is, Chris, that you so early on, and we don't often do this consciously.
Yeah.
Right? But so early on, those fleeting moments of serenity being inextricably linked to food.
Yeah.
And so then later in life, you found yourself then searching that out when you desperately craved that serenity. Yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly it, man. And you're right. I mean, I didn't realize it when I was 5 or 8 or 12. It wasn't until probably a few months ago, just really writing and reading and thinking it through, that kind of those revelations started to happen. But it's really interesting to look back on that now and be like, man, that's totally what it was. Like every food equaled peace, food equaled joy and happiness. And so, that just became, even before alcohol or anything, that was my go-to, man. And I used and abused it, right as soon as I figured it out. And so, my entire life has been kind of this battle with food.
So tell me, Chris, because, I think many of us who have battled or are battling addiction in one form or another can really maybe not describe the time, but maybe they can. The feeling that occurs when you realize, and you alluded to this earlier, you, at least on some level, probably not completely, but at least on some level, start to get the feeling that you're not eating because you're hungry. You're not drinking because you just want to have a drink or two. You're not, whatever it is that you're engaging in, there's something much deeper that's craving this that you may not have complete control of.
Yeah. Yeah. I think there's been a couple of times in my life where that kind of hit home. I think the earliest memory of kind of getting that was actually probably around high school time. And I would be like, I would sneak food into my room, sneak food and eat it late. So I eat dinner and then I go down to my bedroom and eat the night away. I think like doing that, I probably didn't stop and think about it, but I just remember thinking, this is kind of messed up. Like, this isn't healthy. Like, something's going on here. You know what I mean? And I think just like any kid, I just maybe didn't want to deal with it, you know, but I know for sure it was a lot of insecurities, as well as just, some stuff at home, and just trying to find some comfort and some peace and some escape, you know what I mean? And so that's I definitely felt it then. And I think probably the next big time I felt it is later in life, a few years ago, when I started realizing I had a kind of an alcohol issue. And then I started realizing, okay, this isn't normal. Like, I just want to drink all the time, and I don't even like the taste of alcohol. Like, I don't even like the taste of it.
Right.
I'm like drinking and throwing up into my mouth, like trying to like just chug it back so I can get drunk. I just want to get drunk. It's not about enjoying a drink. So I think kind of those times were also like a big eye opener. Like, hey man, there's something going on here. And I know I've struggled with depression and stuff like that my whole life. And so I know I've done some counseling and stuff like that to know enough that, okay, I definitely have some insecurities and some issues, and I'm obviously running away from them and not dealing with them, but it took me getting like to the point where I got really big. I got over 500 pounds. I couldn't move. I couldn't walk. I couldn't get up out of chairs. I ended up in the ER with really bad like heart palpitations and stuff. It really wasn't until my health became a real serious issue that it was finally enough to make me go like, dude, I got to do something about this. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's really what it took for me.
It's interesting as you talked about that, Chris, and as you were, I found myself really relating to this idea that, God, this isn't normal. I'm sneaking food into my room, and, this recognition on some level that it's not normal, and that, people that don't have an issue with food probably don't sneak it into their rooms, right?
Yeah.
And
right.
people that don't have an issue with alcohol don't hide it places all around the house, and aren't trying to pound 3-4 back before anybody notices it, right? That's just not normal behavior, right?
Yep.
But I distinctly remember when I was engaging in this behavior, and there was these certain moments where it was undeniable how abnormal my behavior was and how little control I had over it. But I also had this distinct thought that came in that what this is doing for me is still worthwhile, right? Like, it's still, even though it's causing problems, even though I know it's not okay, and that's like there's like this uneasy, unsettling feeling about it, the satisfaction and pleasure and benefit that I'm getting still outweighs the consequence. Can you relate to that?
Yeah, no, absolutely. That's the catch, right? And that's how we get caught up in it. That's how I got caught up in it. And this addiction, I mean, I'm 41. It wasn't until I was 41 that I finally got into the program, because even though I was miserable through my 30s, just heavy and out of shape and just like controlled by alcohol and just feeling hungover and hazy all the time, that still wasn't enough because, yeah, exactly. I was still getting something out of it. I was getting a lot out of it. It was my source of happiness.
Right.
For drinking and food was what made me happy every day. And like when I have a stressful day or I have a long gig that I'm not looking forward to, and I'm playing, well, I'm just looking forward to like, dude, when I get home, I'm gonna get all this food. I'm gonna watch a movie, and I'm just gonna numb out. And I would get excited. I would get goosebumps,
Absolutely.
like just excited about it. You know what I mean? And then so it became what I was living for. Was alcohol first, and then food. Both. It was the only thing I was living for. I was like, dude, this whole day sucks. My life sucks, but tonight I get to get drunk, and then I'm gonna eat some food afterwards. It's gonna be awesome. And that was it.
That oblivion, that complete escape, and that complete ability to completely check out.
Yes.
From reality.
Yes. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And the in And so now tell me a little bit about, the moment, the turning point for you, right? We talked about, like, you got to 500 pounds, right? And we had some health issues. Tell me a little bit about, how you came to a place where, for me, it was, a complete and total surrender, and it wasn't like I need to manage this anymore. It wasn't even a thought about, like, I need to stop drinking. It was a thought, like, I can't continue to live like I'm living. And if I can't find a way to change something, if something doesn't change, right, I don't want to be a part of this life anymore. Like, I don't want to be a part of it, right?
Yeah.
Can you relate to that? And how did that happen to you? How did that manifest for you?
Yeah, man. I totally feel that. I had the same kind of feeling. So it started when I ended up in the ER. I ended up in the ER with, like, constant heart palpitations, like, nonstop. They just would not stop. My heart was constantly out of rhythm. And that was super scary. And, it's one thing if you have them every once in a while, but when they are constant, I was just having a lot of issues with breathing and chest pains, and I was scared. And so I ended up in the ER, and I was lying on the gurney there, and the doctor comes in and, like, so how much do you drink? And I had to tell him, like, well, you really want to know? And, I always, whenever I tell them how much, they're always like, whoa, dude, like, how are you alive, So just kind of seeing that look on his face. And also, I just remembered, man, there was this guy in the room next to me, and he was screaming at the top of his lungs nonstop the entire time I was in there. He was just in excruciating pain. I don't know what was going on, but I could just hear him through the walls just screaming. And just that, lying on that gurney, having these heart palpitations, hearing that guy screaming, I was like, dude, if I don't do something, that's going to be me next, and then I'm gonna die, because this I can't go on like this. Like, I'm either this is gonna take me out, this is gonna kill me, and so I'm like, dude, I just can't do this. I have to stop, and so I quit drinking without the 12 steps. I went to a couple AA meetings, but just didn't really quite resonate with me. But I think just for one, it was that fear of dying, and that I knew I could do better. That got me to quit drinking, but that didn't solve the problem, right? So instead of drinking, I just turned to food. So instead of drinking every night, I just went right to the food, and hardcore, man. And I'll say the food got me through. I mean, the food got me off alcohol, and I needed to quit. So, I mean, in one way it did kind of work, but the bad thing is it made my food addiction just a million times worse. So I was always like, well, I can't drink tonight, so I'm going to get ice cream. Ice cream is better than alcohol.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
So there's this rationalization that went on, right?
Yeah, totally. And you think you're going to just do that for a day or two, and then Monday I'll start a new diet, whatever. And that went on for 2 years, man. And I literally, like, every night would do that and just go get all this food. It was just insane. So really, that got to the point where I just couldn't even function. Like I said, I was pre-diabetic. I couldn't breathe. I had developed asthma. I've never had asthma before. I just got it because I was so big. I couldn't get up out of chairs. My knees were failing me. It was bad. I could barely walk across a room without losing my breath. And I kind of just broke down when I was talking to my family, talking to my mom and dad. I was just like, man, I think I got to do something. This isn't good, And, man, my family stepped up. My sister, my mom, my dad, they all just jumped on the internet and found solutions. I had looked at OA a little bit, but just, kind of hadn't taken the leap, And so they found a retreat. It was a 5-day retreat to go to and just kind of jumpstart this whole thing. I was like, yeah, that's what I need, man. I need to get out of this just routine and just do something drastic and commit to this, So I went to this retreat called CORE. It's up in Minneapolis, Minnesota. And I drove up there, of course, just like picking out on food all the way up there, you know what I mean? And like, oh, whatever, I don't think this is going to work. But it changed my life, man. It was amazing. I got there, and that's where I really started to learn about the 12 steps. And they had great teachers that took us through the big book, took us through the steps. I started to see for the first time what it truly meant, like how it was about our spiritual health, and not just about giving up bad habits, but it's about our spiritual health. And all the little things that we all get hung up on sometimes that keep us from, even the first step, like admitting I was powerless. I was like, well, I don't want to be a victim. I don't want to be like, oh, I can't stop, so that kept me from going to meetings. And then, but understanding that, like, that doesn't mean you're a victim. It just means that you're saying you need help, and that's why you're here, and you need help, and you can say that. So I'm like, yep, I can say that. So, okay, first step, I got it. Second step, like each step was just this little thing. And once I started to see, like, this is exactly what I needed, this like walked me through all my resistance, especially I was raised in the church, and so, but I kind of rebelled and walked away from it. So I kind of have those issues with religious institutions and all that kind of stuff. You know what I mean? And so that was hard for me. Like, is God real? And I have all these doubts. And but again, just the steps just allowed me to, well, can you admit that there's some kind of higher power, whatever you want to call it? You know what I mean? I'm like, yeah, I can say that for sure. And so, man, it was magic, dude. Those first 3 steps especially broke through some really big walls for me. And so that all happened while I was at this retreat. And, man, seriously, by day 2, I just had this, like, seriously, like, spiritual awakening experience, like something I've never experienced before, man. It was just really, really amazing. And I just felt, this present God, the universe, whatever you want to call it, your higher power, I just really felt like connected to God, and that he was there watching over me, and really had a plan for me, and all that just started to click, man. So that, I just can't say enough about that. When I was at that retreat, that's where everything just totally flipped. And I realized this is what I've been looking for my whole life, and I am all in, and I'm going to do whatever it takes. I'm going all in with it,
That's amazing. A couple things that, really struck me as you did such an amazing job detailing how that happened for you. And number one, you came up to Minneapolis. That's where the Way Out podcast is based, is in the Twin Cities. So super cool that you were able to come up to our stomping grounds up here in Way Out podcast territory, man, and get some, and get some 12-step love. Right?
It's awesome.
And
yeah, that's
awesome. So that makes me feel good that Minneapolis is a part of your story. That's really cool.
Yeah, that's where it happened. Yep.
And number 2, really, to walk through those steps and realize that they just have to be worked in a way that makes sense for the individual, right? And seeing those barriers get knocked out one by one, probably part because you were ready and part because, it was the right, it was presented to you in a way that really made sense for you. It allowed you to be able to, digest it in a way, that, hey, people have described step 1, 2, and 3 as I can't, he can, and I'll let him, that
right.
kind of deal, right? And, it doesn't have to be any more complicated than that, but we all arrive at it coming from a little bit different of a place. Yep. And we all sort of get through it in a little bit different and in our own unique way. The really cool thing you said is that you felt connected afterwards. And I've heard addiction be described as the opposite of connection. And what did we talk about? We talked about that idea, that thing we all used to love to do, which was to engage in our substance of choice and disconnect and check out.
Yes.
That's what we did, right?
Yep. Yes.
And so recovery is all about connectedness. Connecting to a power greater than ourselves, for me, the God of my understanding, right? Whatever that means to you. But there's this connectedness, not only to this power, but to other people in recovery. And it sounds like you kind of, you said, I'm in now, right? I have this connected feeling that I haven't had all my life, that I've been searching for inside a bottle, or inside, a Dorito bag, but really, it was
my higher power that I was looking for. And it was connectedness to other people who are, that are on the same journey as I am and come from the same place I came from. And we're sort of united in this connected struggle, right? Have you connected in that way in recovery?
Oh yeah, man. I mean, that was another big eye opener. For years I've been like, man, I just need to find more of a community to be a part of, and just not knowing what that. Yeah. And I tried different things and just didn't feel, I don't know, man. I know like I'm isolating, but I don't know how to stop it. And the only thing I know to do is just sit alone in my room in my house and just shut out the world. But I know it's making me miserable. And man, going to that retreat, because obviously there were other people there with me, I just instantly felt like they were all friends I've had my whole life. Like our stories were the same, And it was just like, oh my gosh, these are my people. These are the people I've been looking for. They're in OA and AA.
I found my people.
Yes, I found my people, man. It was so exciting. And so, yeah, you just have this instant connection with everybody you meet. And I've continued to, pick up the phone and just call people I don't even know and just be like, hey, this is Chris S. from St. Louis, and I'm in OA and all that. And you just instantly have this rapport with people, and it has been huge to listen to other people's stories and just to be able to draw so much parallel, situations to it. And man, it's just amazing. And oh man, I'm not alone. I'm actually not alone. Like I'm part of this team, and I was the poster child of isolation. I mean, I know we all are. We all do that. And so I know in order to go all in, I'm going to go all in the other way. I'm going to pick up the phone, and I'm not saying I don't struggle with it. I do. I still struggle with it. Sometimes I don't always make my calls and don't get to as many meetings as I like, but I'm always aware that I need to do more, and I need to do that more. And the best days are the days when I am on the phone talking to my fellows. You know what I mean? Those are the best days, man. And so I know that's a lifelong part of the journey is just continuing to stay connected. We gotta, I gotta get up and consciously work it every single day, but the payback is huge if I do.
No doubt about it. And that connectedness to my recovery community, and I can relate to that on such an intimate level, Chris, that, when I came down this final time, almost 4 years ago, and surrendered, and then listened to everybody talk, and they gave a first step meeting, my first meeting back this time, it took a few times for me to get this thing over 20 plus years. When I came down this time, brother, they were telling my story. They had felt like I had felt. They had done what I had done. They thought like I had thought. Okay, it's very difficult to describe how powerfully connected I felt to those people, and how amazing it felt to know that I had finally found my tribe and found my people. And I felt at home. It felt like I had come home.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's magic, isn't it? It's magic.
This week's Recovery Revealed segment is brought to you by All Recovery Rings and allrecoveryrings.com. Would you like a medallion or coin from your favorite recovery program hand-forged into a beautiful ring? Go to allrecoveryrings.com and choose from over 15 stunning styles, all hand-forged by expert craftsmen. What are you waiting for? Do like I did and get your very own recovery ring today.
We'll be right back with the second half of our interview with Chris as we pause for two things. Up first is our recurring Recovery Revealed, an opportunity to take a closer look at this life in recovery. We'll follow that up with the track titled Perfect by Chris Swan. as we live a life of recovery, we'll likely be faced with many situations for the first time. Or at the very least, for the first time sober. Weddings, family get-togethers, new relationships, and sometimes the loss of people that were a part of our lives in one way or another. I was recently faced with a situation I never really thought I'd face. One that was so incredibly raw and emotional, I walked out of it shell-shocked and overwrought with a seemingly unshakable depression. A woman, we'll call Brenda for anonymity's sake, I've known for over 10 years, is at the very end of a losing battle with cancer. The same disease that took my mother at just 42 years of age. I was 11. A friend of mine encouraged me to go visit her in the hospital, and though honestly I was avoiding the hell out of coming to terms with it all, especially coming to terms with a potential end-of-life hospital visit. I prayed, and the answer became clear. I needed to go. I went even though I didn't want to, because I knew that was the will of the God of my understanding. I was scared, partly based on what my friend had told me of her visit, and partly that I wouldn't be able to handle it, that it would somehow cause irreversible damage, that it would unearth all of the trauma of my childhood. As I rode the elevator up to the 7th floor, I searched for the right room to no avail. My heart was racing, and it felt as though it was going to hop out of my own chest and take the nearest exit to escape this impending emotional danger zone. I kept searching despite my whole entire body being racked with fear. When I walked in, I saw a sight impossible to be prepared to behold. She was dying, plain and simple, and it was jarring to be faced with the reality of the eventuality we will all face. None of us get out of this thing alive. She was no exception, but at age 48, far too soon. Her mother encouraged me to hug her and kiss her forehead, and I did without hesitation. I told her I loved her, and that I miss her. We miss her. I cried. She lost her ability to speak days ago, but she cried too. I thanked her. That is what the God of my understanding told me to do, to thank her for what she gave us. She taught us not to be afraid to be exactly who you are, ever. Brenda lived unapologetically and was rarely afraid to speak her mind. She lived life on her terms, with boldness and authenticity. How many of us walk around this world afraid to be exactly who we are? She did not. She liked hearing that, and I was grateful to deliver that message to her, which felt divinely inspired. I told her that I had been dating a wonderful gal for 5 months, and I'm not married yet, which made her smile broadly and laugh. She loved to tease me about my multiple marriages and subsequent divorces, frequently saying, "You know, Charlie, you don't have to marry the next one inside of 6 months." We loved to laugh about that, and she always said it with love. I thanked her for always thinking of new and fun games I could play with my boys. I have numerous games recommended specifically by her that gave me time with my boys I likely wouldn't have had otherwise. These games gave me a way to connect with my boys at a time when I was desperately searching for ways to reconnect with them. I thanked her for giving me time with my boys and a way to connect with them I wouldn't have had otherwise. She liked to hear that, and I needed to say it because that's what the God of my understanding wanted me to do. I walked out of that hospital room with a depression I haven't felt since my own mother died nearly 30 years ago. I called my friend and broke down crying. But I wasn't just sad, I was mad at God and at the unfairness of it all. I called my dad and we talked about my mom and what it was like near the end for her. I called my girlfriend and I called my sponsor. I talked to my boys about it so they knew if I was a little off in the next few days, they would know why. I got love back from everyone I shared my pain with. After the initial intensity of the emotion began to become more tolerable, I realized something profound. Because of my recovery, I was able to fight through my selfishness and be there for someone in their time of need, if only for a brief reprieve from their suffering. I was able to battle back my own emotional baggage and let her know she made a difference in our lives and that we won't forget that. We won't forget her. Equally profound was the realization that the awful feeling of depression, sadness, and anger I was hit with will lift. It will go away at some point. Maybe not today or in a week or in a month, but at some point it will go away. What I will never forget, however, is what I was able to give a friend as she drew near to her last breath. Some sense of comfort and relief, a laugh, a smile. Moments where she was reminded that she mattered to all of us, that she gave us so much, and that we won't forget it. We won't forget you. Godspeed, my dear friend. Godspeed your journey to the next life, whatever that might be. Now stay tuned for the aforementioned Perfect by Chris Swan. Listen up.
Don't forget, the way we get the message out to those who still suffer is to give this podcast a 5-star rating on your favorite podcast platform.
I always thought that I was supposed to try to be perfect, but when I look up high, the twinkle in your eye tells me that I'm worth it, 'cause you love me completely, and I see it all around me. And now I don't have to try to be perfect anymore. Being little, writing songs in my room, and not a single day would go by where I wasn't consumed. All I wanted to do and all I wanted to be was a rapper and musician for the world to see. I needed to be the best, had the love in my chest, and I was blessed with the family, taught me all the rest. And I guess I learned young I needed everyone to like me. I just couldn't handle it if anyone would spite me. So I went to work just writing them songs, practicing piano, making beats, I couldn't go wrong. If I could get to the top, then I could show them all that I was worth something. Hurt couldn't stop me at all. All I needed was perfection, then no one could ever hurt me. It's better than connection, and I'd feel like I was worthy. Surely my plan was tight, I was unstoppable. It turns out perfection, it wasn't even possible. I always thought that I was supposed to try to be perfect, but when I look up high, the twinkle in your eye tells me that I'm worth it, 'cause you love me completely, and I see it all around me. And now I don't have to try to be perfect anymore. Da-da-da-da-da. Feel like like I was a failure in life. I wasn't perfect, wasn't rich, so something just wasn't right. I had impossible goals and expectations to meet, and every time I fell short, I felt incomplete. This turned into years of feeling like I wasn't good enough. I wasn't meant to succeed in rap, I wasn't hood enough. Began to hate myself, and depression, it soon followed. Trying so hard to be perfect, it left me feeling hollow. It wasn't until I hit the bottom and found you, I started hearing less of the lies and more truths. The more I heard, I knew I had nothing I had to prove. I had one decision to make, it was easy to choose. I chose life, I chose to love who I am. A flawed human being that's part of a perfect plan. I was loved as a kid, and now I'm loved as a man. I hope the songs I write now help you understand. I always thought that I was supposed to try to be perfect, but when I look up high, the twinkle in your eye tells me that I'm worth it. 'Cause you love me completely, and I see it all around me. And now I don't have to try to be perfect anymore. To try to be perfect anymore.
I knew I was holding on to a lot of baggage, and I needed to get this stuff out. And so I jumped right on it, and I actually had a couple sponsors right off the bat, and my sponsor that was taking me through the steps was really big on like, let's do it, let's not waste time. And I'm like, yes, I love that, let's do it. So I dove right in, man. When I came home, a big chunk of my day every day was working the program. It got to be a little stressful because I was like, man, I got to do some other things, you know what I mean? But at the same time, it was awesome because I was just so excited to experience some of the promises and to just kind of clean house, So I went right to work, man, and I went through the steps and thoroughly, but probably within, I think it took about a month or so. I went through all 12. I'd done the first 3 while I was at the retreat, and then 4 is always a big one, and that was a huge eye opener, man. Writing all that stuff down, just page after page after page of resentment and fears and all that stuff, and I'm like, man, no wonder I'm an alcoholic and a food addict. Are you kidding me? Look at this stuff. It was just amazing to look at it, For real. Man, it was it was just so powerful, man. It was really, really great. And so I went right through and did the 5th step with my sponsor and the prayer, and that was an incredible moment. And then I got through the 8th and 9th and really worked through that. Like a big part of the 9th step with me was like I wasn't sure like who I was supposed to call or talk to and who I was supposed to kind of let go, because I didn't want to bring something up for somebody that was going to hurt them, you know what I mean? And so that was a big part of the 9th step for me, but just working through that with my sponsor and all that was huge, man. And just working through all that and repairing the relationships that needed repairing so I got through them in about a month, and obviously it's still work every day. It's not like, all right, cool, I'm good now, I did the 12 steps, I'm healed. It's definitely doing that 10th and 11th and 12th every single day. And I have a little on my phone, I have like a little questionnaire so I can do my 11th step every night. So every night before I go to bed, I make sure I do that so like nothing doesn't creep in, because man, there's stuff every single day, and like, oh yeah, I had a couple resentments today, like I need to work through that, because that's exactly what got me so sick, was just stuffing all that stuff down, and not dealing with it. So I just got to stay vigilant on that every single day and doing that clean house every night, and making sure I'm on top of that has been huge. So So yeah, I'm super grateful to have, gone through these steps, and man, it was a huge, like, I can't overstate it. It was a huge burden lifted, like doing that fourth, fifth, sixth step, man. Like that was another game changer for me, because it was stuff that I didn't even realize I was holding on to. And just being able to truly let that stuff go has been just an amazing gift. It's really amazing.
That process that we go through in terms of working through the 12 steps really produces the requisite change, right, that needs to occur in order to produce a meaningful and lasting recovery, right? Because all those things that I dig up in 4, that I get rid of in 5, and ask the God of my understanding to remove in 6 and 7, all of those things are blocks to the to my connectedness. And as we talked about, that connectedness is so important. But if I allow that stuff, so I was all blocked up, right, with fear and resentment and all sorts of, character defects that were not allowing me to really, the channels were blocked, man. The spiritual channels were blocked, and I needed to clear those out. And if I don't, so that was, and there was this sort of like really, second, sort of spiritual experience that I had after 5, right? But if I don't continue, then I'm going to get blocked up again. Right? Okay? And I am going to eventually become restless, irritable, and discontent again. That will happen. Okay? If I don't continue to do the work that I need to do in order to maintain my spiritual condition. And I'll get all blocked up again. I'll get all restless, irritable, discontent again. And at some point, the idea of taking a drink or engaging my substance of choice again sounds good again, right? It starts to sound good again because I can no longer tolerate how I feel, and I can no longer tolerate being inside my own skin, right? And so I'll want to hit that proverbial eject button again, right? Yeah. So tell me now what life is like today. What has recovery brought you, right, that, makes this life so worthwhile? As I always talk about, nobody would want this recovery thing, right, if it sucked. If it just meant quit drinking, quit eating, quit, doing our, quit engaging in our addiction, sit on our hands, right, and just, and literally just grit our teeth and watch veins pop out of our neck and head while we're just trying not to drink and trying not to eat and trying not to do anything, right? It has to be worth living. So what's worth living for you? What's worth it today when it comes to recovery?
Yeah, that's a great question. So much, man. And it's funny. That's what we think. I mean, that's what I thought. I'm like, oh, so I'm just going to give up everything I like doing. And then that sounds great. Recovery sounds great. I'm just going to sit around like, what am I going to do, dude? It's going to suck. And that was a big part of that resistance, right? Like, there's just nothing else that's worth living for, And man, I used to think that for a long time, that's what recovery was about, and it just couldn't be the opposite, man. More the opposite. There's so much. I have life again. First of all, physical recovery, and I'm only 5 months in from the food part of it, has already been huge. I already, like, the asthma's gone. All my numbers are normal now. I'm not pre-diabetic anymore. Cholesterol's good. I can breathe. I can walk. I can move. I've lost 80 plus pounds, so my body already just functions better. So obviously that's a big one, just feeling a lot better physically. But man, even before I started experiencing that, there was, the spiritual and emotional stuff was the biggest. So like being able to let go of things just totally like opened me up to being able to enjoy life. Like I could find joy in little things again. I was so blocked, just like you said, I was so blocked off that I couldn't experience true joy. I couldn't experience like real happiness. The only happiness I could experience was my fix happiness, what I mean, which wasn't real. And letting go of all that stuff allowed me to like be free again, like to be like, oh man, I can like myself. I don't have to hate myself for the mistakes I've made. I can love myself. I can love other people. And I can serve other people. And so that's been a huge eye-opener. Like, it's freedom and it's peace that I've never experienced. I've been in super turmoil my whole life. And now I have this, like, peace that comes from that. Now, it's still, again, a work in progress. Every day isn't perfect. And I have days where I'm still working through some stuff and frustrated. But I know now I have the tools. I know what to do now. Like before, I didn't know what to do if I was just pissed off about something. I just didn't know how to, what to do about it. But now I know what to do. I know who to call. I know what to read. I know how to reach out, to connect, to work through the steps again or whatever I need to do. So just knowing I have that now is amazing. It's a life changer. Like, it's freedom. So freedom is like the biggest thing I feel. I mean, another big thing for me has just been like creatively. I'm a musician, and I got into music to create music, to write my own music and record and stuff. And, but just for a lot of different reasons that kind of fell to the wayside. And I began, gigging, just playing Brown Eyed Girl every night, you know what I mean? and loving it. Yeah. And, you know what I mean? Yeah. And just miserable, man. I was miserable because I was just playing songs that I didn't like. But also I was just focused on all the negative, and so once I started focusing on the positive, how I can serve people through music, how I'm grateful that I get to do that for a living. When I can really start to focus on that more now, first of all, my gigs are a lot more fun. They're still hard sometimes, but they're a lot more fun because I look at it like, dude, I get to serve people. I get to, you don't know, there's someone in the audience that just had the worst day of their life, and I get to be one of the people that brings some joy to them by playing Brown Eyed Girl because that's their favorite song. You know what I mean? And so if I can focus on that, I can find some joy in those gigs again. But then also, when I quit drinking is when I started Soul Motivation Records, and I started this record company to make music that inspires other people, and to encourage other people to find, their purpose in life and their joy and their happiness that they're missing out on. And so, once I quit drinking, especially, like, I finally started to have the energy and time to put into this, and I started creating my own music again, and so that's been a huge one for me, is I've been able to like get in the studio and record music, and I'm putting out new music every month now, and just making music that matters to me and that I think can encourage other people. So that's a big one for me, because that's just, we all have those things that we feel like that's what God or your higher power created me to do, and to make music is mine. That's what I really feel like I'm, one of the reasons I'm put here to do, on earth. So it's awesome to find that again, like to find the time and the energy and to be pursuing that again, and the people that I'm meeting through and all that. So that's been a huge one for me, man, is it's made me like music again. You know what I mean? Like, be able to enjoy music and find joy in all of that again. And that's huge because I really, really missed that for a lot of years.
And it sounds like it really, for all intents and purposes, giving you purpose again.
Yes, exactly. That's totally it, man. Like, once the haze started to clear, I finally started to see, okay, like, what do I want to do with my life? I could just have that conversation with myself instead of just being like, whatever, I just want to eat junk food and watch Netflix because I feel like crap, I can start having that conversation. Like, I can live my dreams and pursue things again. And I just knew I wanted my life to be about helping other people. I think we all kind of feel that, right? When we go through these steps, we're all like, oh man, dude, this is amazing. This changed my life. Like, already in my head, I have 20 people I know that need to hear this. Now I know I don't run to them and just preach at them, but at the same time, I want to live my life in a way that shows them that it can be different, And so we just know, like, man, this is it. I got to just share this with anybody who wants to hear it. And so, yeah, that's what music became for me too, was like, man, well, that's what I want to do. I want to use music to help people, find these truths and find their path to freedom that I found. I got to share this, right? So it's 12 step all day, every day, man. I just want to do that every day. And so that's huge. You do have this like purpose again. And man, the joy that comes from that alone is life-changing.
There's no doubt about it, and I love hearing you talk about it and understanding that recovery is giving you the ability to be able to live a life of purpose and live a life that really, you embrace recovery in a way that allows people to see this as a way of life that they might want to at least check out, right? If we are a living example of what recovery looks like, right? And we're living a life of purpose, and there's joy and serenity and connectedness and community, that just exudes from our pores in a way that's really attractive to other people, and they want to know, what are you doing? Like, what's changed? What's different, right? And it's not that I just quit drinking. That's just the beginning. Mm-hmm. That's just the beginning. I have to be sober. I have to be abstinent in order for any of the rest of this to take root. Like my spiritual condition is contingent on my sobriety, but that's literally only the beginning. And I love the fact that you were able to, bring this into a passion that aligns with something that you're already talented, right? And really speak that message of recovery to in a way that only you can. It's in a way that only Chris can. Yeah. So that's amazing. Why don't you do this for us? Give us a way that we can listen to what you're doing and how we can reach out and how we can connect with your music, because I think for people that are in recovery, I think that's huge. But the message is universal across many aspects of life, right? Struggle, and then and then moving through that struggle. So how do we get at your music?
Yeah, man, definitely. Everything is at soulmotivationrecords.com. So soul is S-O-U-L, like your soul. So soulmotivationrecords.com. You can jump on there. There's a tab on the music page once you enter the site. There's a big thing that says free music. You can just get on there, and I do a single every month, and I'm just giving those away, just to, spread the message. And so you can click the link, you can get some free songs, download them, and check them out. And I would love to hear what you think. And, also, I'm on all the social media, but, Soulmo Records on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all that stuff, SOULMO Records. So would love to hear and connect. I mean, I just, obviously I want to connect with as many people as possible who need to hear this, but who maybe are also working the steps or have been through the steps or have 20 years of sobriety. Like all people, I just want to connect and learn from who I can learn from, but also encourage who I can encourage. So I think social media is really a great way to do that. So just hit me up at soulmotivationrecords.com. And definitely be sure to say hi.
Absolutely. So reach out to Chris if you connected with his story. If there's something that resonated with you and you wanted to share that, share that and let Chris know that his story resonated with you. There was a piece of his story that really made you was a game changer for you and changed your perception about where you're at in your own journey. Absolutely reach out to Chris. Chris, I would love to include in our podcast that we drop on this interview.
I would love to include a track in between the front half and the back half of our interview. So if I were to include a track, first of all, is that something that you're good with? Would you like to share that on this episode?
Yeah, man, would love to do that. Would love to do that.
All right, dude. So which track are we going to include on this episode?
Okay, so I have a song, Perfect. I have a song called Perfect, and it's just about my struggle with overcoming perfectionism, which played a big part into all my issues that led to alcohol abuse and food abuse, but just thinking I always have to be perfect. And if as long as I'm perfect, then nobody can hurt me, nobody can touch me. But man, going through the 12 steps and realizing that I'm already perfect the way I am, feeling connected to God in a way that I know He loves me and He has a plan for me. And I don't have to be perfect. I don't have to try to be perfect anymore. And the freedom that came from that was just so huge. So that's what that song is all about. And it's called Perfect.
All right, man, we're going to drop Perfect right in the middle of the front and the back half of this interview so everybody gets a really good first taste of your music, and I think that's great. If you want to reach out to Chris and the rest of that just evaporated from your brain because you are conjuring your inner me and you forget stuff, reach out to share@wayoutcast.com. That's share@wayoutcast.com, and I will absolutely 100% make sure that Chris gets your message. Chris, brother, I cannot thank you enough for the time and for sharing your experience, strength, and hope with the Way Out podcast audience. This is so much, so relatable, and such a beautiful journey that you are embarking on in your recovery. And do not be a stranger at all. We want to make sure that we stay connected. So thank you, brother.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I agree. Let's stay connected. I really appreciate you having me on, man. And I just really appreciate what you do, man. People need to hear it and know they're not alone. And what you're doing is just really awesome, man. So thanks for letting me be a small part of it. And let's definitely keep connected, man.
Absolutely, man. I know that there's people in this audience that felt like you felt, that thought like you thought, and did what you did. Okay, and it's going to break down some barriers. It's going to break down some walls, and that's the whole idea here, man. Just making sure that we get as much story out there as possible, because you were meant to connect to people that nobody else can connect to, and you were meant to reach people that nobody else can reach. Okay, so your voice matters, your story matters, your journey matters, and it's gonna speak to people. That's just a fact. So thank you, brother.
Yeah, man. Thank you, brother. I appreciate that.
All right, peace out.
Thank you for being a part of The Way Out, where we share stories from people just like you who have recovered from alcoholism and other addictions. If you would like to reach out to the show, you can visit us on the web at wayoutcast.com. That's wayoutcast, all one word, .com. Or drop your host a friendly email at share@wayoutcast.com. There you can also find links to previous episodes on iTunes, Stitcher, and Podcast Garden. If you or someone you know would like to be a guest on the podcast, contact me at share@wayoutcast.com. See you next time, and remember, if you don't change, your sobriety date will.
Intro, Recovery Revealed, and outro music courtesy of Ben Sound Music.